Welcome to a story written in whispers. A story that never sought an audience but still echoed through eternity. He loved her quietly, because the world was too loud for his feelings is not a tale of grand gestures or royal declarations. It is a story of silence, the kind that speaks more powerfully than words ever could. In the heart of Dubai, beneath the golden skies and unshakable walls, Sheikh Hamdan, the world's beloved Fazza, carried a secret symphony within him. A melody no one could hear but her. A love too sacred to be shouted, too fragile to be seen. He met her not in a ballroom or a courtly ceremony, but in the stillness of ordinary time, a moment so fleeting that it almost felt like a dream. Her presence didn't need to announce itself, it simply was. She didn't bow to his crown, didn't tremble at his name. She looked at him like she could see the man behind the gold, the heart behind the fame. For the first time, he felt known, not as a ruler, not as a poet, but as a man, and that quiet recognition was the loudest thing his soul had ever heard. He could have written her name into history, but he chose to keep it hidden between verses and metaphors. The world heard his poetry and thought it was fantasy, not realizing each line was a confession in disguise. Every word he penned was a heartbeat laid bare, every rhyme a way to speak her name without saying it aloud. The poems they praised were never meant for applause, they were love letters written in code, music composed in silence. The world was always too loud for what he felt. Cameras followed his every move, voices analyzed his every word, and the weight of expectation silenced what mattered most, his heart. So he loved her in secret, quietly, reverently. He learned to speak through glances, to write with restraint, to carry a universe of devotion within a single smile. To the world, his silence was poise, to her, it was poetry. Between them, the unspoken became their language. Sometimes they met where no crown could follow, beneath the desert sky, where stars hung low enough to listen. They never needed promises, their eyes were enough. She understood that his love wasn't meant for display, it was meant to endure. He couldn't offer her the world's recognition, but he gave her something rarer, the honesty of a heart that had forgotten how to lie. They spoke softly, because loudness would have broken the spell. And in that stillness, the universe seemed to pause just to hear them breathe. He watched her move through life like a secret miracle, unclaimed, unseen by most, yet unforgettable to him. Her simplicity was her crown, her truth her beauty. She didn't crave attention, she was content to be his peace in a world of chaos. And in her calm, he found his sanctuary. When duty called him away, he carried her in silence, not as a burden, but as breath itself. Every time he looked at the sky, he saw her reflection hidden in the clouds. There were days when he wanted to shout her name to the winds, to tell the world that the greatest thing he ever owned was her heart. But power is a prison for love that dares to be pure. He understood that some feelings can't survive the noise of the world, that to protect her, he must stay silent. So he smiled for the cameras, waved for the people, and wrote for her instead. His pen became his voice, his ink the only safe place where their story could live. Even his horses seemed to understand, the creatures that carried his soul across endless dunes. When he rode into the horizon, the wind felt like her touch, the rhythm of the hooves like her heartbeat. Nature became his confessor. The desert, the sea, the moon, they all knew. They all kept his secret, protecting a love that didn't need validation to be eternal. He learned that love, when real, doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. He loved her not as a prince, but as a poet, without possession, without pride. His affection was not loud enough to shake kingdoms, but deep enough to move heavens. He didn't write her story
There are nights when the silence feels almost alive, when he can hear the echo of her laughter threading through the wind that moves softly across the balcony. He doesn't try to chase the sound, he just listens, letting it pass through him like music returning to its origin. The moon, his only witness, seems to glow brighter when her memory visits. She was never just a woman to him, she was the stillness between storms, the calm that kept his restless soul from collapsing beneath its own crown. In her absence, he learned that silence could both heal and haunt. Every poem he writes now begins the same way, with a pause, a breath, a moment of remembering her. He doesn't write to be understood, he writes to feel her again, to summon her presence between the lines. Some nights, he finds himself writing the same sentence over and over, "She was the sound I never wanted to end." And though the world reads his work and celebrates his genius, none of them know that each verse is a note of longing, a quiet plea for her to somehow hear him across the distance. The palace guards see him standing at his window, gazing toward the horizon long after midnight. They think he's lost in thought about the kingdom, about responsibilities and the weight of leadership. But they are wrong. He's not thinking of the world, he's listening for her. Somewhere in the still air, he imagines her voice, soft as the first light of dawn. He's built an empire of peace for others, but his own heart remains a battlefield of memories that refuse to surrender. He never told her that she changed the rhythm of his life. That before her, his days were like perfectly played notes, predictable, practiced, poised. She turned that precision into feeling. She made his heart stumble, his thoughts wander, his words tremble. He once feared such imperfection, but through her, he discovered that the truest beauty hides in what cannot be controlled. She made him human again, something no crown, no victory, no poem had ever managed to do. Sometimes, when the world demands too much, he escapes into the desert with nothing but his notebook. There, where silence reigns and stars reignite his faith, he hears her again, not in voice, but in presence. He writes until the pages fill with echoes, until the pen runs dry, until his heart feels lighter. The desert keeps their secret, guarding their love like a sacred promise written in sand. And when the wind finally takes his words away, he smiles, because he knows they're going to her. He has accepted that some loves are not meant to be lived loudly, only remembered deeply. His was the kind that transcended time and title, the kind that survives not in photographs or public gestures, but in the soul itself. When people call him Fazza, the poet of hearts, they have no idea that